After the engagement banquet, he unexpectedly became a rapist. In Datong, Shaanxi, this case, which has dragged on for nearly 2 years, is finally going to have its second trial verdict today. On May 1, 2023, Shi and Wu held an engagement banquet according to local customs. The groom's side gave a dowry of 100 yuan and gold jewelry and also signed an agreement promising to add the bride's name to the property deed of the marital home after marriage. But the next day, the bride suddenly called the police, claiming she had been raped. In the first trial, the court sentenced the groom to 3 years in prison.
At the court hearing, the prosecution insisted that the two had sexual relations but could not produce a DNA report. The groom's family argued that the authorities approved the arrest without even waiting for the DNA test results, which was a serious violation of procedure. What's even more bizarre is that no traces of the man's semen were found on the woman's underwear or the bedsheets. Recently, the court-appointed agency assessed that a suspended sentence could be given, but the man's family insisted on a full acquittal and even demanded that the 12 people involved from the local police and prosecutor's office be held accountable. No matter what the verdict is, this case will leave a profound mark on the history of our country's judicial system.
The Datong, Shaanxi engagement rape case has just been decided. The original verdict was upheld. On the morning of April 16th, the Datong Intermediate People's Court in Shaanxi publicly announced the verdict in the rape case of the appellant, Shi Mumu. In accordance with the law, the original verdict was upheld. It's regrettable, shocking, and leaves me speechless. This case will definitely have an impact. In the future, it will affect people's views on marriage and relationships between men and women.
It will have a profound impact. Everyone has switched to sarcasm mode now. Robbers don't wear masks anymore. They wear wedding dresses. Although it's a joke, it shows just how surprised people are by the outcome. Now, the man can no longer appeal. The last glimmer of hope is to apply for a retrial or for a protest by the prosecution, but the chances are slim. We also hope that the relevant authorities can release more convincing details and provide a legal explanation to the public. Otherwise, many people really won't be able to understand this.
The Nancy Datong Ding Hui rape case is actually very simple. It's just a petty matter where Ding Hui was used as a cover and marriage was exploited for profit. The handbag scam is basically a honey trap. No normal person would do something like this. The bride's family accepted the betrothal gifts, everything was settled, and you even took the ring that means you were getting ready to start a life together. Just one marriage certificate away. Who would send their own husband to prison over something like this? 2 years ago, after the return banquet, the bride and groom went back to the West and had relations. However, the very next day, the bride's brother and mother used this incident as a reason to repeatedly urge the groom to immediately add her name to the property deed. They also demanded that the remaining 100 yuan of the betrothal gift be paid in advance. Otherwise, they would accuse the groom of rape. It was obvious they were just after the money. They never really cared about the man at all. Afterwards, the groom even compromised and agreed to add her name to the property deed. But what difference does that make after a year? But as for the bride, she still refused, meaning she couldn't even wait a year. What does being in such a hurry say? It shows she doesn't want to spend even a single day with him. She just wants to get the money as soon as possible. And what did the bride's mother say to her daughter? She said, after you get married, if you don't want to stay at this house, you can just come back home. There's nothing I can do about it. The way they're handling this makes me seriously suspect they're trying to use marriage to scam money. Besides, nothing substantial has even happened, and the bride's hymen isn't intact in fact. She's not a virgin at all. Don't embarrass yourself by pretending to be something you're not. You want to be a so-called virgin, while also using the engagement as another facade. What do you take marriage for? Just a tool for your own benefit?
The Datong, Shaanxi engagement rape case is basically a triple death trap. At the time, the groom's family only agreed to add the bride's name to the property deed after marriage. Why? Because according to the rules back then, if the bride's name was added to the property deed before marriage, even if they divorced the very next day, the bride could legally walk away with half the house. This isn't about marriage negotiations at all. It's like signing a betting contract. The groom is betting that the relationship won't fall apart, while the bride is betting that if they divorce, she can cash out. After all the back and forth, the bride accused the groom of rape. Police got involved and proposed mediation. If the man paid 180 yuan and apologized, the case would be settled with no further legal action. If he admitted guilt, he could get a suspended sentence, but still lose the 180 yuan. If he refused, he faced a long prison sentence. The court's position is for the man to admit guilt, then give him a suspended sentence and put him under community correction. But the man insists on either being acquitted or being sentenced directly to 3 years. Now the court is at a loss. What do you do when you play too many tricks, right? At this point, it seems the man can only pin his hopes on one kind of law.
In the past, robbers carried AK-47s. Now, robbers wield the law as their weapon. He eats your food, takes your rice, gets what he wants, and still expects you to apologize. These robbers, if they're even slightly dissatisfied, they'll sue you and try to get you thrown in jail. Because whether you stick to the rules or not, whatever he says goes. You're inside eating porridge, while he's outside continuing to scam people. To sum it up in one sentence, it's not the boldness of the robber you should fear, but the robber who is educated.
Brothers, from now on, be careful when you rent a room to play poker. Don't end up getting accused of rape afterward and thrown in jail. Make sure to keep your chat records and remember to ask, baby, this is consensual, right? The Datong engagement rape case still hasn't been resolved, and now there's another engagement rape case popping up in Zhejiang. At present, there haven't been any reports from official media. I learned about the Zhejiang and the Datong engagement rape cases through the accounts of those involved in the live stream, analyses from officially certified lawyers, and AI searches. The triggers for both cases are basically similar, but the details of this case are even clearer than the Datong one. The man and woman have been in a relationship for 5 years, and during those 5 years, they often rented rooms together to play poker. They were already engaged, and the man had paid a bride price of 380 yuan. They also bought a house in Wenzhou worth 1.8 million yuan. With things like this, the two of them were just one step away from getting married. In other words, even though they hadn't officially registered their marriage, they were already living as a couple in practice. Since they were still in a long-distance relationship, the man is from Anhui and the woman is from Hangzhou. Days before the incident, they agreed to meet in Hangzhou, and it was the woman who booked the hotel room. According to the accounts of those involved, surveillance footage shows the two of them walking into the hotel, hand in hand, looking happy. They also left the hotel happily and went to have a meal together. The man even drove the woman's car to help deliver some drinks. But then, everything changed in an instant. The next day at noon, the woman asked to have her name added to the property deed for the house the man had bought. The man refused, and they ended up having a huge argument. The man stormed out of the place. An hour later, he received a call from the police, saying that his girlfriend had accused him of rape. That's how the case happened. Unlike the Datang engagement rape case, in this case in Zhejiang, the man's DNA was found in the woman's body, and the man openly admitted that they had had sexual relations. However, he insisted that it was not force. There was nothing in their chat records to suggest coercion, nor was there any indication of force. In the Datong engagement rape case, although the woman's hymen was intact and no traces of the man's semen or STR typing were found, the woman did have bruises on her body, which was very unfavorable for the man. So, in comparison, the situation in Zhejiang is much more favorable for the man, right? There was no evidence of coercion in either the videos or the chat records. They had been in a relationship for 5 years, were engaged, and the betrothal gifts had already been given. They're both adults, so could this be considered rape? Even so, the man was still detained for 7 days before being released on bail pending trial. He's not allowed to leave Hangzhou. That just makes me chuckle. If what this man says is true, I feel that this woman is basically copying the Datong engagement case. If the woman's name isn't added to the property deed, she reports rapey if marriage doesn't work out, and relevant authorities get involved. Aren't they just becoming her enforcers? If these two engagement cases end up letting the women achieve their goals, then the marriage rate will drop even further, and the birth rate will decline even more. In the future, more people will imitate this. After all, it's such easy money, and you don't even have to pay taxes on it. So law enforcement really needs to think this through carefully. Today, we're witnessing a historic moment.
If the man loses, the impact will be no less than the infamous "it wasn't you who hit them, so why did you help" incident back in the day. First of all, let's look at this rationally. We should be protecting those women who have truly been harmed and victimized, but not someone who is a fraud. Getting the result is no longer important because the man has already been detained for over 700 days. The only difference from similar cases in the past is that during these more than 700 days, he actually held out and didn't confess. I can't even imagine it. No matter if you're dating, in a relationship, engaged, or even married, couples used to say, "I want to break up with you," or "I want a divorce." But in the future, will it become, "I want to accuse you of rape"? It doesn't matter whether I subjectively consented or agreed to it. What matters is whether I